Do you talk to God, and does God talk back to you?
We haven't had an audible conversation. It's been one way so far, but I had a moment where I was going through some financial struggles with business years and years ago. It was probably 15 years ago. And it just got to the point where I was sitting on my back porch and I was doing all the right things and I was reading my Bible and I just kind of slammed it down and I just started yelling at God. And I maybe even said a few words that I wouldn't recommend you saying, not to God at least. And I remember saying, I am done. You said you're going to take care of me. I am done with this. And there might have been some choice expletives added to that. And I have never felt a peace in my life like I felt immediately after that. And it was as close to audible as I'll ever get, maybe, with him saying, that's all I've been waiting for. Let me take over. And I can tell you my net worth at the time was probably negative. And it's just been a straight line up ever since.
So there's this kind of voice in my head right now that's like, you got to talk about faith. You got to talk about faith. Steve is all about his faith and his belief in Christianity. And so I'm going to throw that out there, man. How much of that, because you're the guy that doesn't separate it. Like, that's who you are. You carry it everywhere with you. You make your decisions through that filter. You are that man. And that's something that I really admire and appreciate about you. Tell me about when did you discover your faith and how do you kind of blend that into your life as a whole?
Yeah, well, thanks for recognizing that, because it's nothing that I go around. I don't wear a shirt that says, "Hey, I'm a Christian. Ask me about it."
I'm calling BS on that because I've seen you in that shirt. So
I have some that are similar, but not exactly. But I don't wear it to work. It's not. I remember years ago I was I'll tell you how I became a Christian here in a second. But I was at a business meeting with other Christians, and people were going around the room saying, "I'm a Christian business," and "I'm a Christian business," and they got around the room, and I had to stop, and I said, "Can somebody define what a Christian business is?" And so people said, well, I have a fish on the front door and I got the Bible verse on my van and I got, the things that you kind of expect. And I went and I said, well, I am specifically not a Christian business then. And you thought that just like, oh, you see people just like kicking me out of the group. And I said, the reason is because I want to make sure that I can love on everybody. I don't want just people who feel like they're a Christian to walk in my door. And I think if you talk to all my clients, whether they're Jewish or atheist or Christian, I think they all feel comfortable, because what I feel like I'm called to do is to love on them. I feel I'm called to share these principles that I've learned, that Dave Ramsey would call them biblical financial principles. The CFP group, it's exactly the same things that the Certified Financial Planner course teaches, that Dave Ramsey teaches. It's just good, solid financial planning. And I feel that it's just me loving on people and doing what's appropriate for them. And yeah, I get compensated, but I think so many people are looked at as an investment opportunity by their financial advisor, and so I want to make sure that our team is loved on, that they feel seen, they feel appreciated, and I want every one of our clients to feel that way. When people come into our office, everybody's hugging and talking about their families, and we do feel like both our team and our clients are one big family. But to your point, I try to be the same person in my personal life, in my work life, in my you've seen me in the fitness group. And it's who I am. If somebody wants to talk about it, I'm happy to talk about it, but I'm not going to beat you over the head with a Bible either. That's just not my style. But the way I became a Christian, because I didn't grow up in church, and being a physics major, I was always looking at the physical world thinking that's all there is. And I had my first child, and having kids changes you. And I remember exactly the place I was sitting in the car I was driving. And it was one of those beautiful Sarasota days where the blue skies and it's 72 degrees and the sunroof's open. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks that this can't be by accident. And I actually immediately believed that God exists. But I didn't know, was it the Jewish God, the Christian God, the Muslim God, the Buddhist God, the Hindu God? I didn't know what was right. So I probably read 30 books on every world religion. I probably listened to 100 hours of debates. Um, I just became curious. And so it was through that journey that I became a Christian. And there's 2 or 3 people that I can attribute to that as well. One is my pastor, Randy, today, which way back when Bayside was very, very much in its infancy, we used to have coffee probably once every other month. And he would keep answering all my silly questions. Had a client that was very much a faith person, and he's one of these guys that's just always in your face about it, but in a loving way. And I think the most interesting one, and the one I probably try to emulate the most, is I had a client named Dan, who never once talked to me about his faith. He had a little cross pin on his jacket. We never had a faith conversation ever, but I saw how he lived his life. I saw how he treated his family. I saw the joy that he had. I saw his kids. I saw how he treated others. And I just wanted to be like Dan. And years later, Dan ended up taking his money and starting another business, so he wasn't a client. But I called him out to have breakfast with him, and he said, "Hey, what's going on? I haven't seen you in a few years." And I told him he's one of the reasons I became a Christian. He just broke down in tears. He's like, "I had no idea. I had no idea I was having this kind of impact on people." I'm like, "Well, you needed to know. That's why I'm having breakfast." So I hope to be like Dan someday.
Wow, that's powerful. I hope you get there, man. Sounds like Dan was a very special guy.
Yeah, he's still a real special guy.
So you figured that out. What changes did you make right away?
Well, I realized some of the things that I was doing I probably shouldn't be doing. And some of that was just really selfish things. It's just more living for me instead of living for others. So it changed how I treated my wife. It changed how I treated my family. It changed how I acted to others. So it was all those kind of things.
Big realization, huh? And so then did your kids end up growing up in a Christian home, seeing their father as a Christian, or did they see the transformation?
I think when I became a Christian, my oldest son was probably 1, and my other kids weren't around. Mm. So they grew up in a home that was Christian, but kind of evolving. And over the years, we've become more and more involved with our church and volunteering and doing the things that I think are appropriate. And so that's, you hope those things rub off on your kids. They're teenagers, so they're in their wayward years, but weren't we all?
Yeah. So talk to me, Steve. Like, do you talk to God, and does God talk back to you?
We haven't had an audible
what are these conversations? But you haven't had a what?
We haven't had an audible conversation. It's been one way so far, but I had a moment where I was going through some financial struggles with business years and years ago. It was probably 15 years ago. And it got to the point where I was sitting on my back porch and I was doing all the right things and I was reading my Bible and I just kind of slammed it down and I just started yelling at God. And I maybe even said a few words that I wouldn't recommend you saying, not to God at least. And I remember saying, "I am done. You said you're going to take care of me. I am done with this." And there might have been some choice expletives added to that. And I have never felt a peace in my life like I felt immediately after that. And it was as close to audible as I'll ever get, maybe, with him saying, "That's all I've been waiting for. Let me take over." And I can tell you my net worth at the time was probably negative, and it's just been a straight line up ever since.
But did you have to do anything physically, or just accept that you're giving up control at that point? What does that look like?
I realized that I didn't need to control everything. I needed to just kind of trust what was going on and trust that there was a reason, and realize that, if God loves me and if he exists, and I think both those things are true for everybody, that he's got my best intentions at heart. And so therefore he could stop whatever's going on in my life, but he's chosen not to. So there must be a reason. And I think that's where oftentimes we have to sit back and say, what's the reason? Rather than complaining about it, realizing that God loves me, God exists, and he could stop this. And we may never find out the reason here on earth, but there is a reason. And so to the best of my ability, I'm going to find that reason out. And I think I needed to go through that fire. I need to go through those trenches to become a better person, to become a better advisor, to be able to do what I'm doing today. I look back and think, boy, that was a financial struggle, but maybe I wouldn't be where I was today had I not gone through that. And just like the triathlon training, you're never going to be an Ironman if you don't put in the hard work and the sore knees and the tired muscles and just all those kind of things. So, and Eric, my wife went through breast cancer surgery. She had breast cancer in 2020. Had the surgery and reconstruction and all those things over the next 20 years. And I had the same epiphany. It's like, God loves my wife. He could stop this, but he's chosen not to. What's the reason? And I think the reason is we've gotten to tell her story to a bunch of people and see how her faith has grown and how she's become a stronger person. And she's been able to mentor other women that are going through the same thing. And so I think there's, I hate that she had to go through that, but I think, she's a different person. I'm a different person having helped her go through that.
Man, that's huge.